So what inspires you to do the magazine, Busi? What has drawn you in the first place to start with the magazine and to continue doing it?
Okay, I think firstly it started with when I hosted these conferences. Every single time in my heart, I just felt I don't want conferences that create a hype, if I can call it that.
Yes.
Or rather, let me call it, there's a word I know, a sentence that I use where I say, sometimes we attend conferences and then we have temporary and momentary joys or momentary highs.
Yes.
We get so inspired by the speaker, you're like, wow, by the testimonies, by whatever.
Yes.
You're on a high at that moment. You really feel, wow, that was amazing, inspirational. And I've always asked, Lord, how do we sustain this? Because sometimes by the time you got home, life hit you.
Yes.
Now you have to do stuff. You've now, for a moment, you packed whatever wonderful teaching you had. You didn't make any long-term commitments or resolutions at the time. And life happens. And slowly but surely, it all fizzles.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then you go to the next conference. And then we got on another high. and so it goes. So that was, I think, firstly, that's one of the reasons why I was looking for something that has a long-term impact and a long-term effect. And then secondly, I also had a few conferences. I had one in Pretoria, well, a few in Pretoria. And I do remember before I went to Mossel Bay, I specifically asked the Lord when somebody asked me, please, she said, don't take too long before you host the next conference. I said, okay. But in my heart, I was like, I'm not sure if maybe the next one will be here, because I don't just want to bring it to the same place because people want it.
That's good.
And it's not it's not God, and I'm now doing it because people want it. So I was like, Lord, show me what's the next thing. And there he leads me to the Bible, and I'm reading, and the answer comes. It says, after Jesus prayed with his disciples, he then said to them, let's now go out to the villages and the small towns, And then I was like, oh, there. And then now I'm praying again. Okay, which small town? I know it's a small town. I'm praying. After a while, somebody says, go back to that script. I think I got too excited so quickly. When I go back, and then he said, they must go back to his hometown. And then I went, okay. And then I phoned my mom. I'm like, we're coming to Mossel Bay.
Yes.
She's like, wow. And so we went there. And so it started spreading, because then I also got somebody also sent me an inbox on Facebook from Kenya who said, how do we host this in Kenya as well? How do we have the apple of his eye there? I'm like, okay.
That's big.
Yeah, and then the next thing, we've had 2 conferences already in Nairobi. And then I just thought, this is fantastic. We're going here, we're going there. But how is this different? How is this making a longer term impact? Because yes, we do get that, the revelation at the time, or whatever the case might be. You get the message that was just meant for you. How do you sustain it? And so yes, in my heart, then I just knew the Lord, and especially when you think about all the other talents God had given you. And then it came that I must start a magazine. Because the magazine can get to where I will never get.
Yes, that's true.
To people who will never attend any of the conferences. And it's got a longer lasting effect.
Yes, that's true.
That you may read something today that maybe doesn't mean anything to you now. You're not going through it or what have you. And you can keep going back. And if there is something that speaks to you, you can read over and over. You can keep coming back. You can pass it on to somebody
that
else.
That hasn't attended
You know what I'm saying?
Yet.
And on it goes. So it can reach people that we'll never meet. And then it becomes even less and less about me, and more about the message. So that's for me, that's what it was. And the fact that it can both be in print and digital. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can still get that same message. And that excites me to say, Lord, I have no idea how far and wide you want this thing to be, but
Yeah.
You know, so
You're
it
just
was
being the vessel, and God is just
absolutely
taking it where He wants
and
it
He's
to
bringing
go.
the people
Yeah.
that I need to make this
Exactly.
possible.
It's
The
awesome.
incredible writers that I have, you know, some I didn't know.
Sure.
In fact, by the time I launched the first issue, I hadn't even met them yet.
Sure.
Because some of them, they would just see something on Facebook and they send me an inbox, and the one said, "Hi, I see you'll be launching a magazine soon. I love to write Christian articles, never published anything. Would you want to send something?" And then I remember thinking, oof, I do think my magazine is very full at the moment, but you never know.
You never know.
Then she sends me, I'm like, okay, send it to me. And I'm reading it. I'm like, I have to create space for this. People have to read this, you know? So and I've got writers across the world.
That's
I've got
amazing.
ongoing writers from the US. I've got from Kenya, I've got from the UK, and all over the country in South Africa. It's really, really been amazing. It's just God bringing
It's
everybody
just God.
together.
That's
It really is
amazing.
God. It really is.
And I love the fact that it's online, available online. Reading the magazine, the first volume, I must say it's very inspiring. It's refreshing. Yeah, I love it. I can't wait to read the second volume.
Thank you. Now, I was actually even more excited about the second one as well. Because obviously the first one, you're not sure, but I obviously, I knew that the stories that God wanted to be there had been there. Even the people, the stories, you know, some of them I'd only met once doing something else. And then while I'm there, I remember one specifically, I was judging a pageant. And this lady, disabled, she's attending this and she's participating in this pageant. And I looked at her, in my heart, it was, you gotta get that lady. You have to interview that lady.
Sure,
I'm
I
like,
saw
okay,
that.
my goodness, what's her name? I now must write her name so I don't forget. And also now wonder how am I gonna get hold of her. But God prepares all of that.
And makes a way.
And at that point you don't even know, is she Christian? What is she? And then she shares the story. You're like, oh, goodness.
And then you know it was God.
No, it was. So it's been great. Yeah.
Amazing. So Busi, as we come to a conclusion, tell me, what can you tell the viewers out there who is seeking for a renewed passion in life and who is seeking purpose from God? How can you inspire them today and encourage them?
One of the speakers that I had that also I had not met until the morning I went to fetch her from the airport for one of my conferences. She actually had a wonderful way of talking about purpose. And since that day, I've found it a lot simpler to understand it myself, and I think it's the best way I can answer, because a lot of people are firstly struggling to know what is that purpose. And she spoke about, you know, God puts a burden in your heart about something. So the question is, what burdens your heart? What is it that every time you see, every time you hear, for someone else, they can walk away. It doesn't bother them that much, but with you, it stays with you. It concerns you. It's the thing that keeps you awake. Be it every time you see somebody homeless, for you, you take it home and you think, what can I do? Whatever that might be. So go back and find out, what's that burden in your heart? And then once you know what the burden that's in your heart, that's what you need to put into action and to think, so this is what it is. This is what I believe my purpose is or what my calling is. Once you have that, then look at the resources around you and then put that into action. So for me, that's why when I look back to my life and all of those things that have always burdened me, only later do I actually look back and I see the golden thread that it's been there all along. I could just never identify it. I just never knew that was the thing. And the minute you know that's the thing, even before you know what to do, you find peace. It gives you peace. It gives you joy. You say, yes, that's it. And once you know that what's it, then that's when you start looking for what is it that you're going to do. And then God helps you with those resources. So just go back to what burdens you And if once upon a time you did start and you already know what that is, you no longer have to first find out. Go back, write it down. There's nothing more powerful than a vision that's written down. I know we talk about the book of Habakkuk all the time, write the vision down, etc., etc. But there's so much power in that. Whenever you write that down, and you write down what are the small steps that you want to take, every time you make a tick, it gives you courage to try something more. So write down your own testimonies, because the one thing, we know that the enemy comes to steal, kill and destroy. Remember, he doesn't just do that with big things.
With the physical.
He does that, he does also that with your dreams, your memory. He makes you forget what you've already been through. That every single time you want to tackle something, you think, oh my goodness, this is the biggest thing I've ever done. It's going to fail. You forget the one God did already. So write those things down, because they become the things that encourage you. When you've hit those times, you're like, I don't know, I'm going to make this work. And then remember that you don't have to make it work. God will make it work, And also just remember that we don't know how much time we have. Sometimes we have the illusion that I'll still get to it. When I retire, when day. This, you never know. That one day might not come. And one thing that keeps me going is I always remember this is not my purpose, it's God's purpose for my life. And if I don't fulfill it, God will find somebody else.
True.
Remember, if God wanted to reach certain people through this ministry and I'm not stepping up, God will find another way to reach those people. I'm not going to be a stumbling block in God's way. So would I want to be a co-worker with God? Of course, that's an incredible honor to know God has chosen me to be part of something so great. And that's what makes me feel I just can't not do it. I mean, really, that's like such an incredible honor.
Wow, it's amazing. I know we have a little bit of time left, but what are you looking forward to in the near future, Busi?
Oh, in the near future, I would love to get the apple of his eye far and wide, because obviously we're still starting up, resources financially and otherwise, all those things need to come into play. One of the things that I'm looking forward to is to get God's Girl, which is also the teenage version of the apple of his eye. So that I would like to see that going to as many schools as possible.
That's amazing.
To get the girls at that age, from the age of 12, to actually start teaching them things, talking about the things they are going through, making sure that they understand. For this to be a companion, that they know that they can read this and get valuable advice. They can write to us and say, this is what we're struggling with. What so we can find people who write the stories, who can share their testimonies and all of that. Because for me, the apple of his eye, focusing on the women, most of the time the work is restorative. The damage had already been done. They've already made poor decisions in certain areas. Certain things in life have happened, not obviously of their own doing. So there's scars already where you're restoring them, where you're reminding them of God's love and all of that, which is wonderful, and I want to keep doing that. But with the teenagers, it's different. You're actually getting somebody whom you have the opportunity to shape, to make different choices, to make better choices, to know their identity early on, instead of telling them on after the world has already fed them lies. If they can know the truth from the beginning, can you imagine the kind of powerful people we will have that are, God-fearing, who know God for themselves, who know their identity for themselves, who are not shaken by what the world throws at them. So for me, that is the big idea. That's the big dream, to have that influence on young people, that no matter what the enemy comes and teaches them at any point, they are so well groomed and so, that they know the truth.
Yeah.
They can say,
Yeah.
not me,
Yes, yes.
move on. You
Yes.
got the wrong girl or the
Exactly.
wrong boy. So for
We
me,
need that.
that's my dream.
Yeah.
That's a big vision.
And it's a beautiful vision. I think this generation really needs it, because God has something great in store for them as well.
Absolutely. No, definitely.
It's amazing. And by saying that God has something great for you in store, inquire from Him. Pray about what you feel is a passion in your heart. I think Busi have said so much today. She has stirred up my heart, and I think by listening to all of what you have gone through, the victories that God has given you, and the momentum that you go ahead with what God has given you, it's just so amazing. Busi, thank you for coming out today and for sharing your story and for sharing your heart with us, and this amazing vision God has given you. But if you want to find out more about Busi and the vision, you can go on to Apple of His Eye Ministries.
Yes,
Is that
yes.
the website that you also
Absolutely. It's www.theappleofhiseye.org. That's our website, to read more about what we do. Also you can read online on
Yeah.
the website about the magazines. You can also obviously follow us on social media
Yes.
and get in touch with us there. We are on Instagram, the Apple of His Eye magazine, and Facebook.
Yes.
I am the Apple of His Eye. That's our Facebook page.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you guys for tuning in today, and it was such a lovely conversation. Hope you'll join us next time. God bless. Thank you, Busi.
Thank you. Thank you.